Hilchos Shabbos Perek Chamishi. The laws of Shabbos, chapter 5. Today, the topic, as you can see on the screen, is Hadlakat Haner. The mitzvah, not biblical but rabbinic, that on Friday evening we should light a candle so that we can have the candle lit during the Shabbos meal. And we're going to see why exactly this is. It's in that book. Open it right in the beginning, Perek Hey. The first section. Okay, let's get right to it. Halacha Aleph. Hadlakat ner b'Shabbat eina reshut. Lighting a candle on Shabbos is not optional. Im ratza madlik v'im ratza eino madlik. If you want, you can light. If you don't want, you don't have to light. V'lo mitzvah she'eino chayav lirdof achareha ad sheyasena. It's not even on the level of a mitzvah, where some mitzvahs we say you don't have to pursue it till you do it. Kigon erovei chatzirot, or nitlat yadayim la'achila, like making an eruv to be able to carry from one courtyard to another, or washing your hands before eating. Those mitzvahs we saw, if you want, you can do them. You don't want to carry, you don't have to make an eruv. Lighting candles isn't even that, it's even stricter. Elazeh chovah. It's an obligation, it's an inherent obligation. There has to be a candle lit in your house.
It's rabbinical.
Yeah, rabbinical, but it's a chovah, the level of chovah. Ve'echad anashim ve'echad nashim chayavin liyot bebatehen ner daluk b'Shabbat. Whether you're a man or a woman, in your house there has to be a lit candle on Shabbos. Afilu ein lo ma yochal. Even if you have nothing to eat. Sho'el al ha'ptachim ve'lokeach shemen u'madlik et haner. You should go begging by the doors, asking for money. Buy oil and light yourself a candle. Shezeh bichlal oneg Shabbat. According to the Rambam, the reason why we light a candle on Shabbos is because it's part of the mitzvah of oneg Shabbat, pleasure of Shabbat. We know the reason of Shalom Bayit, right? We always talk about how if you have light in your house, there'll be peace in the home. The Rambam never mentions that. Why? Because even though that does happen as a result of having a candle, according to the Rambam, that's not the geder. That isn't the definition of the mitzvah. The definition of the mitzvah is literally the candle itself enhances the pleasure of Shabbos. V'chayav, yeah, you see over here in the verse that we say every Shabbos, it says in Yeshaya, Im tashiv mishabat raglecha, asot chafatzecha b'yom kadshi, v'karata l'shabbat oneg. You must call Shabbos a day of pleasure. So included in that pleasure is lighting a candle. Also in chapter 30, the Rambam says it's also included in Kavod Shabbat, honoring Shabbos. Bottom line is, the candle itself has an element of honoring and pleasuring the Shabbos. Before you make the lighting, you make the following blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Your other customs say shel Shabbat Kodesh. But we say, blessed are you God, sanctified us with your mitzvahs, you commanded us to light the candle of Shabbos. The same way you make a blessing on anything, which you're obligated rabbinically, and you can still say Vitzivanu, that Hashem commanded us. Why? Hashem didn't write in the Torah, light candles on Shabbos. But He wrote in the Torah, listen to the sages. And the sages said, light a candle on Shabbos. Halacha bet. Even though you have to light a candle, it isn't reserved for the mitzvah. Mutar lehishtamesh b'ner shel Shabbat. You're allowed to use the Shabbos candle. You know, on Hanukkah, you light the candle, you can't use it. You can't read by it, you can't do anything. Shabbos candle you can use. Provided that the matter doesn't require much depth. Later on in this chapter, we're going to see what that means. What's examples of things that require a lot of depth. But basic tasks you can do by the light of Shabbos. Things that you have to be exact and careful in the scrutiny of these matters. You cannot check it by the light of the candle, because you might tip the candle. You see, this is how the candles used to look in the olden days. It's a clay lamp. Some of them were even like a little bit longer. Yeah. And so what happens is, as the oil gets further and further from the wick, the candle will get less and less. And there was a temptation that you might tilt the lamp to get more fuel to the wick. So wherever you have to look very deeply into whatever you're doing, then you can't use it by the light of the candle, because you might tip the candle. Halacha Gimel, Hamadlik. The person who lights Nerot Shabbat, Tzarich lahadlik mi'ba'od yom kodem shkiat hachama. You must light it while it's still day, before the setting of the sun. Today we have the custom, as it says in Shulchan Aruch, kshiyer hachama b'rashei ha'ilanot, when the sun is at the top of the trees, which is roughly 18 minutes before sunset. V'nashim mitzuvat al davar zeh yoter min ha'anashim. Women have this commandment more than men. In other words, if you have a man living at home by himself, he has to light candles. But if you have a man and a woman in the home, who has the mitzvah more? The woman. Why? Because they're the ones that are found more commonly at home. They are the ones that are dealing with the work of the home. They're the homemakers. And since the whole mitzvah is part of pleasuring the Shabbos, they're going to be the ones that are going to take care of that. Nevertheless, it's also on the man to warn them, to check them about the matter. And he has to say to the women and to the men, people of his household on Erev Shabbat, before it gets dark, hadliko taner. He has to give the command, light the candle. If you already entered the twilight zone, you're in doubt whether it's dark and Shabbos entered or not, and madlikin. You can no longer light the candle, that's it, you lost the chance. Till sunset is when you have to light the candle.
I read that it's the man's obligation to prepare the candles for the wife to light.
Oh, so Shulchan Aruch, yeah, it does say that. It says that because the women have the commandment, so the man shouldn't think that he's off the hook. So he should do something to be a part of it. Shulchan Aruch says, Shehu mehavhevet hanerot. That means that apparently when they used to use different fibers for wicks, it wasn't so easy to catch fire. So the husband should light it before Shabbos, then put it out, which makes the wicks, round two, easier to light. Today, because we have so many wicks that are super easy to light, so it says, the modern day poskim, right, that the husband should take another active part of it, either set up the candles. My grandfather, because my grandmother likes to light with liquid, not one of those wax candles. So my grandfather every week he fills up the oil. He fills it up. That's his part. Anyway, but yeah, so you're right. The man should take a part of it if he could. We mentioned twilight zone, so the Rambam talks a little bit about this. Halacha daled. Mishatishka achama ad sheyira'u shlosha kochavim benoniyim. From the moment the sun sets until 3 average-sized stars can be seen in the sky. Hu hazman hanikra ben ashmashot b'chol makom. That's the time that's called between the evenings or between the suns. It means twilight. Any place in halacha you see ben ashmashot, it means after sunset, before nightfall. It's a doubt whether it's part of the day or part of the night. And in halacha we always assume the more stringent position. Whatever is more stringent to be considered part of day, part of night, that's what we use. And therefore, in madlikin we don't light candles because we assume it's part of the night, part of Shabbos, and you can't light on Shabbos. Here you see where we dance on both sides. If you do work on the twilight zone, whether coming into Shabbos or coming out of Shabbos, if you do it inadvertently, you're obligated to bring a sin offering. In other words, when Friday night, we consider twilight to be part of night. And on Shabbos night, we consider it to be part of the day. We say it's still part of Shabbos. The Kochavim Elo says the Rambam, these stars, lo gdolim hanirim bayom, v'lo ktanim she'ein nirin ela balayla. They're not big, that could even be seen by day. They're not tiny stars that can only be seen by night. They're average size. Once these 3 average size stars come out, then it's certain night according to halacha, and all the laws apply. Now that Rambam's going to spend some time talking about the material to be used for Shabbos candles.
So today, if someone doesn't light 18 minutes before, do they have a leeway with those 18 minutes?
Yes, during the 18 minutes you can light till sunset.
Right, so that's you just do it ideally as 18, but if things don't go right, you're a little late.
You have till sunset.
You have right till sunset.
That's right.
Not later.
Not later. No. Halacha hey. Now that Rambam's going to discuss the wicks and the fuel that we use for Shabbos candles, what's proper and what's improper. Ptila shemadlikin ba leShabbat. The wick that we light for Shabbos, ein osin ota midavar sheha'ur misachsechet bo. We don't make it from things which the light cackles on. It doesn't catch easily. Kigon, for example, tzemer, wool, v'se'ar, goat's hair, meshi and silk, v'tzemer ha'erez, cedar fiber. This is cedar fiber. It's a cedar tree. See these little things come off of it. You can make a wick out of it. That's cedar fiber. Upishtan shelo nupatz, flax that wasn't beaten, v'siv shel dekel, palm bast. That's this. Around the palm tree, there's little things that grow. You can make them into kind of material and spin them into threads. Yeah. Uminei ha'etz harakim, and all kinds of soft trees, soft twigs, v'chayotzei bahen, anything like it. Ela midavar sheha'ur nitlet bo. You have to use something which the fire catches, holds onto. Kigon pishtan nefutza, like combed, beaten flax, ubigdei shesh, v'tzemer gefen, v'chayotzei bahen, linen clothes that were ripped apart, do wear and tear, or cotton. Those are good stuff. The hamadlik, and the person who lights the candle, tzarich sheyadlik, berov hayotzei min haptila. He needs to check, see that lamp before? He had the wick coming out of the lamp. However much the wick is extending out of the lamp, you have to light a majority of that. So you have to be careful if you have long wicks that are not going to burn down easily, that it's not just letting at the tip of the wick. I know today they have those candles that sell in the markets. They have long wicks that's just for easiness to light. Once you light it, it goes down immediately. But if you have these material wicks, the light will only stay at the edge, so you have to pull the wick deeper into the lamp and then light it so that most of it is caught. Halacha vav. Hakorech davar shemadlikin bo al gabe davar she'en madlikin bo. Let's say you were trying to make a thicker wick, so you wrapped something which is okay to light with over something which is not okay to light with. So it depends why you did it. Im laha'avot aptila kedei lehosif ora. If you want to make a thicker wick to have more light, asur, because you're using the not okay wick as an active part of the wick. V'im lahakshot psila haptila. But if it's simply about making it harder, so it should stand firmly and not slip into the lamp, mutar, then it's permitted. Because you really only want to light the permitted wick. You're only adding the forbidden wick to make it more tough. Halacha zayin, notnin gargir shel melach ugris shel pul, al pi haner be'erev Shabbat. Okay, I'm not so familiar with the science here, but you can put a piece of salt or a bean on the edge of the lamp on erev Shabbat, sheyiyeh dolek belil Shabbat. So it will burn better on Shabbos. Apparently, if you add some salt or bean into the mixture, the candle lights better. Okay. Any wick which is not allowed to be used for the Shabbos candles doesn't mean you can't use it at all on Shabbos. You can use it to make a bonfire. 2 days ago we had the halacha of making a bonfire before Shabbos, keeping it alive so you can have some warmth on Shabbos. The materials you use for that bonfire could be anything. Whether you're using it for warmth, whether you're using it for light, whether you're making this bonfire on a torch or on the ground. The only prohibition here is to make it into a wick for the Shabbos candle. But a wick or fuel for whatever fire you want to make is okay. That's as far as the wicks. Now the oil. Shemen shemadlikin bo l'Shabbat. Halacha chet. The oil that we light on Shabbos tzarich sheyeh nimshach acharat pilah. Also has to be very functional. It has to be easily drawn after the wick. Aval shmanin she'en nimshachen acharat pilah. But if the oil doesn't go very well into the wick, kegon zefet like tar, v'shava and wax, hot wax, v'shemen kik. This is shemen kik, gourd oil. It's made from these types of squashes or zucchinis. That's shemen kik. Ve'alya, oil that comes from the tail of an animal. V'chelev and tallow. Fats of an animal, that's that. They make them into blocks. You can melt it, use it for fuel. Ein madlikin bahen. We don't use these things. What's taka the reason? Why don't we use wicks that don't light easily or oil that doesn't pull easily? Same thing. It's a decree. It's going to be, the fire might be weak. You're going to tilt the lamp to get more light. And tilting the lamp is literally the malacha of havara, the malacha of kindling a candle, which is forbidden on Shabbos. Halacha tet. Chelev she'iticho, v'kirbei dagim shenimochu. Tallow which you melted, or fish intestines that melted also. Noten l'tochan shemen kolshehu umadlik. As long as you pour in some good oil, you can light it, it's okay. Aval shmanin she'en madlikin bahen, but the other oils which you don't use for lighting, afilu ervan bashmanim shemadlikin bahen. Even if you were to mix them into other oils which are okay for lighting, lo yadlik mipnei she'en nimshachin. You don't light them because in the end, it's going to make the entire mixture not draw well after the wick. Halacha yud en madlikin be'itran. Okay, there's somewhat of an argument as to what itran means. We're going to go with the commentaries that say it means sap from a pine tree. That's over here. You can see the sap literally coming out of the tree. That's itran. You cannot use it for hadlakat neirot mipnei she'rechora. It smells bad. Shema yanichenu v'yetzei. You're going to leave it and go out of the room. V'chova la'av le'shev l'or haner. But the obligation is to sit by the light of the candle and eat for pleasure of Shabbos. Here, it's going to cause you the opposite of pleasure. You're going to leave. V'lo b'tzari. You cannot use. We're going to go with the translation that they give over here. Balsam oil. That's over here on the right side. From a type of tree, make oil. Why can't you use that? The smell is so good. Shema yikach mimenu min haner. You might take some oil out of the lamp. Remember, all the lamps looked like this. Keep going back to this. It was easy access to the fuel. If it smelled really good, you might want to take some out with a spoon and save it for later. And that's the opposite of kindling. That's the malacha of kibui, of extinguishing. That's not okay.
What does that say, Ktaf?
They say balsam trees. That's what we're saying in Ktoret, right? Yeah. Then furthermore, it's flammable. That's not okay. You don't want to set yourself up for danger. V'lo b'neft lavan, not with white naphtha. You can see this over here. It's a kind of kerosene. A white kerosene. Afilu b'chol. The Rambam says that you shouldn't even use during the weekday. It's super flammable. You're going to come to danger. Do not light this stuff in your house. You avoid it. Use other lamps. Halacha Yud Aleph, mutar lahadlik lechatchila b'shar shmanim. Other oils are allowed in the first place, initially. Kigon, for example, shemen snon, v'shum shemin, v'lefet. Here you have all these things. This is radishes, sesame seeds, turnips. And these are oils made out of them. Radish oil, sesame oil, turnip oil. So, those are okay. The only prohibitions are the ones that the sages counted out clearly. That's the ones that we know that they don't work well with the wicks. Everything else is okay. Halacha Yud Bet. I couldn't find a good picture for this, but I just tried making a little artistry so you can understand what's happening over here. Lo yiten adam kli minukav maleh shemen al pi haner. You cannot put a bowl with holes on top of the lamp, bishvil sheyehei menatef, so it should drip in. Clay lamps were made with a specific, a limited size. But if you wanted your candle to burn for a long time, you couldn't fill it up with more oil. So what did you do? You would put another vessel on top of it with holes, small holes, drip drop with oil, and throughout the day, more and more oil would come in, and the fuel continues. So you can't do that on Shabbos.
And the irrigation systems.
Exactly, like an irrigation, but for candles. Same thing, another patent to do a similar goal. Don't fill up a bowl with oil and put it next to the lamp. And put the edge of the wick inside of it so it can draw. Also, I tried my best over here. You have a bowl with oil, a super long wick, and now the wick is both in this lamp, drawing from this oil, and in that lamp, getting more oil, more fuel. So it's going to chap more fuel over Shabbos.
Like a backup. Yeah.
Like a backup. Why are these backups forbidden? Because you don't realize the extent that you make a connection. As soon as you put this thing on top of the candle, it becomes part of the candle. But you, in your mind, you're much quicker to take oil from this bowl than from this one. This one's already dirty, it's in the lamp. This is clean oil. So what's the problem? I realize on Shabbos I have a salad, I need to put some oil in. I'll take from the oil, but it becomes part of the lamp. And it's a problem. It's a decree. You're not going to take some oil from the oil in the second vessel. It didn't get disgusting in the lamp. But it's forbidden to enjoy, to have benefit on Shabbos from oil which was used to light. Even if the lamp was extinguished, even if it dripped away from the lamp, we're going to have chapters about this later. In short, muktzah means set aside before Shabbos. One of the ways to make something muktzah is machamat isur. If it was in a state of prohibition when Shabbos entered, so it stays prohibited the entire Shabbos. Since when Shabbos entered, the lamp was lit. No matter what happens to the lamp stays muktzah. So therefore, we're worried that you're going to take it from the candle. Says the Rambam now counterintuitively. If you were to take this bowl and not just put it on the lamp, but you actually made it part of the lamp, you attached it with lime or with shards of pottery and something like that, mutar, then it's actually permissible to be used. Why? Says the Shulchan Aruch, because the very fact that it's attached to the lamp in a weird way, nobody does this, but you did it in your house, reminds you that it's only here to help the Shabbos candle and it should not be used for any other activity. You cannot put a plate or a vessel under a lamp to catch the drops of oil on Shabbos. This is another concept we're going to develop later in the chapters. You cannot purposely on Shabbos cancel a vessel from being able to be used. When you put a vessel on Shabbos under the lamp, that's it. You now say, you're basically declaring, I can no longer use it on Shabbos. That's not allowed. You can put it before Shabbos, no problem. But on Shabbos, you cannot nullify the possibility of usage. That's the way they translate it over here. Sure, you put it before Shabbos, it's okay. But if it's not oil, if it's simply for the sparks, you're worried that the wick is not going to catch easily, there are going to be some sparks coming out of the lamp, you can put a plate under it to catch the sparks, because sparks have no substance. And technically, legally, you didn't nullify the possibility of moving this plate. But water, you cannot put in this plate. Even on the eve of Shabbos. Because you're actually hastening the extinguishment of the sparks. Halacha Yudalet. Now we return to what the Rambam said in the beginning of the chapter, that if something requires a lot of iyun, a lot of depth, you cannot do it by the light of the candle. So a bunch of things we cannot do by the candle light of Shabbos. Halacha Yudalet en polin la'or haner. You cannot delouse clothing by the light of the candle. Unfortunately, it was very common in those days. clothing were full of lice, and you had to check them very carefully to delouse them. That you cannot do by the light of the Shabbos candle. V'lo korin la'or haner. You also cannot read by candlelight. V'afilu gavoa shte komot. Even if the candle is 2 floors away from you, but it's giving you an influence, you cannot read by it. V'afilu asara batim ze al gav ze v'haner be'elyona. Even if you have 10 floors, one on top of the other, the candle, the lamp is on the top floor. Lo yikra v'lo yafle le'ora b'tachtona. Don't read and don't delouse by its light, even on the lowest floor. Shema yishkach v'yateh. That's how worried we are. You might go and tilt the lamp. It's going to be bad news. But if you have 2 people reading the same scroll, then mutarin likrot lifnei haner. They can read by candlelight. Why? Shekol echad mazkir chaveiro im shachach. Because each one will remind his friend if he forgot. The whole reason is you might forget. When you have 2 people, they're going to remind each other. Avalo bishnei inyanim. But they cannot read a scroll, each one in a different concept. Shekol echad me'an tarud b'inyano. Because in that case, everyone's busy with what he's reading, and they're not going to remind each other. But if they're both reading the same parsha and the same Torah, then it's fine. Halachat tetvav hatinokot. Can I find a picture of this? Yeah. Here we have a couple of kids, a couple of Jewish kids. Korin lifnei rabban la'or haner. If their teacher is supervising them, they can read whatever they're studying by the light of the candle. Mipnei sheharav mishamran. Because the rabbi is watching them. Aval hu lo yikra mipnei she'ein matan Allah. But he shouldn't read in the Torah because he doesn't fear them. He'll just do whatever he wants and make up stuff. But they can read if he's watching. However, he could look into the scroll using the light. So he finds the beginning of the paragraph which he has to teach them. That you can do because it's with a purpose. You give them the scroll and they read before you. By the way, in Hilchos Talmud Torah, we learned this a while ago, we saw that on Shabbos the halacha is that teachers shouldn't teach new material. You should only review. Nothing to do with candlelight, just another general rule. Right. About Shabbos, it's a better day to do chazara, to review, not to learn new material.
We learn new material on Shabbos.
Yeah, we do. But we're not in class, so it's a different type of a thing.
Because it's independent, it's not as...
Exactly. Halachat tet zayin, another example. Kelim hadomim zalazeh. Dishes, utensils that are very similar to each other. Ve'enan nikarin ala beyun haber. You can only tell them apart with a good look. Asur lahakrivan la'or haner u'la'avchin beinehen. You cannot bring them to the light of the candle and check to distinguish between them. Shema yishkach v'yateh, because you might forget and tilt it. Lefichach, therefore, shamash she'eino kavua. If you have a waiter who's not usual in this home, asur lo livdok kosot u'karot la'or haner. He cannot check dishes and plates using the light of the candle. Mipnei she'eino makiran, because he doesn't recognize them. He's not a usual waiter in this home. Ben b'ner shel shemen zayid, ben b'ner shel neft she'ororav, whether it's an olive oil candle or even if it's a kerosene candle where there's a lot of light. And al shamash kavua. But if he's an established waiter, he knows, Hector in Shul, for example. He knows all the Shul's dishes. So it doesn't require him a lot of work. Mutar lo livdok la'or haner kosot u'karot. He can check by the light of the candle cups and plates. It doesn't require a lot of checking. But if it was an olive oil candle, we don't tell him directly to check, even if it's permitted, because he might use it. It's such a good oil, he might come to use it. We don't want to bring that about. Let's say that's how your home was set up. You had a lamp either attached to the back of the door or right behind the door. 2 opinions in the commentaries, what it means, ner she'acharei hadelet. Bottom line is, it's very close to the door. Asur liftoach hadelet v'lin'ol kedarko. You cannot just swing the door open and close like you usually would do, because you're putting it out. Ela yizaher b'sha'ah she'poteach u'b'sha'ah she'no. You have to be careful when you open and close. Same thing, v'asur liftoach et hadelet keneged hamedura b'shabbat k'dish te'aruch min hashevet ba. If you have a bonfire right opposite the doorway, you can't purposely open the door so some wind should come in and fuel the bonfire. Even if it's only a common wind outside, you can't actively bring about more fanning the flames. But you could put a Shabbos lamp on top of a tree which was attached to the ground without worry. On festivals you cannot use a tree, but on Shabbos you can just put it down. It's okay. Halacha Yudchet. Kol medinot v'ayarot shel Yisrael. This is a custom in every province and every city of Jews. Tok'in bahen shesh tkiyot be'erev Shabbat. They blow the shofar like this on the rooftops 6 times every eve of Shabbos. This is a shliach in New Mexico, by the way.
Today do it in Jerusalem and Bnei Brak only.
Yeah, in major Jewish areas. ובמקום גבוה היו תקין. They would blow in a high area. כדי להשמיע כל אנשי המדינה וכל אנשי המגרש שלה. To let it be heard by all the people in the province and all the people of its surroundings. What was the point of these tkiyot, of these sounds? הלכה י"ט, תקיעה ראשונה, נמנעו העומדים בשדות מלחרוש ומלעדור ומלעשות מלאכה שבשדה. The first blow was to stop anybody out in the field from doing work. Everybody in the field would stop plowing and digging and doing work in the fields. However, ואין הקרובים רשאים להיכנס לעיר עד שיבואו רחוקים וייכנסו כולם בבת אחת. Those that were closer to the city shouldn't immediately start making their way back. They should wait till all the far people come to them so they can all go into the city at once, so there would be less danger. ועדיין החנויות פתוחות והתריסים מונחים. But still, all stores were open and all the shutters were in place. They used to hang up the shutters at the end of the day. They were still lying down. התחיל לתקוע שנייה, he blows the second shofar blow, נסתלקו התריסים וננעלו החנויות. They lifted up the shutters, locked the stores. ועדיין החמין והקדרות מונחים על גבי הקירה. But there's still hot dishes and pots on the ranges, on the stoves. התחיל לתקוע תקיעה שלישית. He blows the third blow, סילק המסלק, והטמין המטמין, והדליקו את הנרות. Whoever had to take off his food from the fire took it off. Whoever wanted to cover his dishes took it off, like we did yesterday. Whoever lit the candles, lit the candles. Vishoheh. Then the guy, in charge of the shofar, waits a little pause. Kedei litzlot dag katan, or kedei lahadbik pat batanur, to roast a little fish like a sardine, or to put some bread in the oven. V'tokea u'miriya v'tokea v'shovet. You blow a tekiah, teruah tekiah, long blow, short blow, long blow, and Shabbos comes in. Halacha chaf, when should you do these? Tchiyah rishona, tokea ota b'mincha. The first blow you blow at mincha time, towards the evening. V'ashlishit karov lishkat hachama. The third one, right before sunset.
Candle lighting time.
Exactly. Even today, by the way, you said in Yerushalayim, you do it. This is in Crown Heights, called the Shabbos siren. This massive structure on top of the building. 20 minutes before Hadlakat Neirot, it goes off, and the whole area can hear the siren. It's not a shofar, but it doesn't have to be a shofar. The point is that it makes a reminder. Jerusalem, also in Kfar Chabad, where my wife's family is from. They have, before Shabbos, they don't have a shofar or a siren, they have songs. They have a speaker and a bunch of Shabbos songs play before Shabbos.
You should try to get someone to sponsor
One for Sherman Oaks? Sure. That's before Shabbos. V'chen tokin b'motza'ei Shabbat. Achar seta kochavim. You also should blow a shofar on the end of Shabbos after the stars come out. Lahatir ha'am l'ma'aseyen, to allow people to go do their work. Halacha chaf aleph, Yom HaKippurim. Shechalat be'erev Shabbat. What happens if you have Yom Kippur, falls out on Friday? Today it can't happen in our calendar, but it used to be able to. So it falls out on Friday. Lo hayu tokin. Of course, there's no shofar blowing because it's muktzah. Chal liyot b'motzei Shabbat. If Yom Kippur is on Sunday, also can't happen today, motzei Shabbat. Lo tokin v'lo mavdilin. You don't blow the shofar. You also don't make Havdalah till after Yom Kippur comes out. Today we would do this on Tisha B'Av. Falls out on Sunday, we make Havdalah only after Tisha B'Av. Yom Tov shechalet b'erev Shabbat. If a holiday is on Erev Shabbat, like this year we had Pesach, was on Friday, Shavuos was on Friday, tokin v'lo mavdilin. We blow the shofar, because you're allowed to blow shofar on Yom Tov, but we don't do Havdalah between Yom Tov and holiday. Chal liot la'achar Shabbat. If Yom Tov is on Sunday, mavdilin v'lo tokin. We do Havdalah, because Yom Tov is less holy than Shabbat, but we don't blow the shofar because it's still holiday. We don't want to blow anything to tell people that, you can go do work. You can't do work. It's still Yom Tov. So we don't blow the shofar on Motzei Shabbat. That's Yom Tov.